A racist cop got into a fight and punched a black woman because he thought he could take her down. Not only did her strength surprise him, but he also learned that she was FBI. By the end of this story, he wished he had not thrown the first punch. But by then it was too late. If you believe in what's right, in treating people fairly no matter their race, the color of their skin, or the size of their wallets, prove it. Hit that subscribe button and join the movement. Only people who do not care for justice will not subscribe. Agent Naomi Carter had spent months undercover in the small southern town of Crescent Hill, Georgia. She wasn't just any agent, she was one of the best. Smart, fearless, and highly trained in combat, Naomi had taken on some of the toughest cases in the FBI. Her latest mission was personal. The town's police department was rotten with corruption. Officers were involved in drug trafficking, illegal arrests, and brutalizing black residents with no consequences. Naomi was there to gather enough evidence to take them down. She posed as a local journalist, writing articles about crime in the area. It was the perfect cover. She could ask questions, get close to people, and dig for the truth without raising suspicion. But one man was watching her closely, Officer Rick Dawson. Rick was the worst of them all. He saw himself as untouchable. With his deep hatred for outsiders and federal agents, he had no idea Naomi was both. To him, she was just another woman who needed to know her place. Naomi didn't back down when she saw him harassing a young black man outside a gas station. She stepped in, questioning his authority. Rick didn't like that. Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, the entire street felt tense. "You ask too many questions," Rick said, his voice low and threatening. Naomi only smiled. "I like knowing the truth." It was a small clash, but it was just the beginning. Naomi worked late into the night, sifting through files, security footage, and witness statements. The deeper she dug, the worse it got. The town's police department was a cesspool of corruption, cover-ups, drug deals, and violent arrests that never made it to court records. Officers erased evidence, silenced victims, and protected each other. Naomi had enough proof to bring them down, but she needed more. Rick Dawson wasn't stupid. He noticed her asking too many questions. He and his men started watching her, following her car, showing up wherever she went. Their message was clear: back off. But Naomi didn't scare easily. One afternoon, she saw Rick and two other officers pinning a young black man against a police car. The man wasn't resisting, but they still twisted his arms behind his back, ignoring his screams. Naomi stepped forward. "What's the charge?" she asked, voice steady. Rick smirked. "None of your business, sweetheart." A crowd gathered. People whispered, watching. Rick turned to them and laughed. "This little reporter thinks she's gonna save the world. Maybe she should worry about her own damn place." Naomi crossed her arms. "Maybe you should worry about your badge. You won't have it much longer." The air grew thick with tension. Rick's smile faded. Naomi didn't blink. He expected fear, but he saw none. The crowd was watching. He couldn't touch her. Not yet. But he would make sure she paid for this. "I put hours into researching and telling these stories for your viewing and educational pleasure. The least you can do, just tap that little red button. It takes half a second, but means the world to me." Rick had enough. Naomi had embarrassed him in front of his men, in front of the town. He needed to put her in her place. He waited for the right moment. That moment came when Naomi walked into the police station, bold as ever. She was looking for records, documents that Rick had ordered to be buried. But he was waiting. The room went silent as Rick stepped in front of her, blocking her path. His men stood nearby watching. "You just don't know when to quit, do you?" Rick said, his voice low and dangerous. Naomi met his glare. "I don't quit. That's why I win." Rick's jaw tightened. Without warning, he swung his fist, hard and fast. The punch connected with Naomi's face, the sound echoing through the station. Every officer in the room froze, waiting for her to fall. But Naomi didn't stumble. She didn't even blink. Rick's smirk vanished. Before he could react, Naomi moved. She struck fast, an elbow to his ribs, a sharp jab to his throat. Rick gasped, stumbling back. Naomi grabbed his wrist, twisted it, and flipped him onto the ground with brutal precision. The entire precinct watched in shock. Rick Dawson, the man who terrorized this town, was on the floor, groaning in pain. Naomi straightened her jacket and stared down at him. "Now you know who you're dealing with." Rick lay on the floor, groaning, his pride shattered. The entire precinct was silent. No one had ever seen him lose, especially not like this. Officers stared, frozen in disbelief. Naomi took a slow step forward, then reached into her jacket. With a sharp flick of her wrist, she pulled out her FBI badge and held it up for everyone to see. FBI, you're all under investigation. The room erupted into chaos. Officers jumped to their feet, some backing away, others reaching for their weapons, until the front doors burst open. A wave of federal agents flooded in, guns drawn. Hands where we can see them, an agent barked. One by one, Rick's men were taken down, cuffed, and shoved against walls. Those who had played along with his crimes were rounded up. Rick tried to scramble up, but Naomi planted her boot on his chest, keeping him down. His eyes were wide, filled with rage and disbelief. You, he choked out, his voice shaking. I warned you, Naomi said coldly. Two agents yanked Rick up, slamming cuffs around his wrists. His own men read him his rights. His own department watched him get dragged away. As he was led past Naomi, she leaned in slightly. You thought I was weak, she whispered. You were wrong. Rick's face twisted in fury, but he had no power anymore. Naomi had won. The news spread fast. The corrupt officers were gone. The FBI had seized files, accounts, and hidden reports, evidence of years of abuse and crime. The town finally saw justice. People gathered outside the station, watching as Rick and his men were loaded into police vans. Some cheered. Others just stood in silence, letting the moment sink in. The nightmare was over. Inside the department, everything changed. Honest officers, the ones too afraid to speak out before, finally stepped forward. The FBI ensured the town got new leadership, real accountability. No more fear. No more unchecked power. Naomi stayed long enough to watch the system reset itself. She gave statements, signed off on reports, and met with community leaders. People thanked her, shook her hand, and told her she gave them hope. One young black girl ran up to her. You stopped them, she said, eyes shining. You didn't let them win. Naomi knelt down and smiled. No one should ever let bullies win. With her job done, Naomi walked out of the station for the last time. The air was fresh. The sky was clear. She took a deep breath, then walked down the street, her head held high. She wasn't looking for praise. She didn't need it. She had done what she came to do. And that was enough. If you believe in justice, equality, and the fight against police brutality, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Together, we can amplify these stories, demand change, and ensure that no more innocent lives are lost. Hit that subscribe button now, because not hitting it would mean you want to be silent. I will see you in my next story, same time tomorrow. The end.